Welcome, everyone, to this week's Leadership Lunch Chat with myself and Jen Wilson. We're happy to be with you again today. And what we're going to talk about today is really, I think for both of us, we're meeting with a lot of practices and practice leaders about strategy, about what we know as of today, and just kind of our thoughts on the way forward or things that we're suggesting to people. So Jen, do you want to get started?
Yeah, sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Glad to be with you. I cannot believe that we only have a few Fridays left. That's mind-blowing in 2020. I know we're all sort of sick of 2020, so it's nice that it'll be gone, but it's also mind-blowing how fast time's going. So one of the things that I'm spending a lot of time with firms on right now is specialization, Amy. And it's both kind of medium-sized firms and even some larger firms who, for whatever reason, they have, kind of maintained a generalist point of view. They may not have organized yet around service lines, so they may still be in kind of a silo, sometimes called eat what you kill model of managing their clients and their work. So they're, they have what I'll call singular business processes almost for their client base, and they have people that work for them, and those people might work for others, but when they work for them, they have to process their returns or do their audit work papers in a certain way for me, as opposed to here's how we do it in the audit department, or here's how we do it in the tax service line. And so they haven't specialized by service line yet. And that's interesting because it's really hard to implement technology and have any sort of efficiency for your business processes if you do not specialize by service line. And so, that's one of the first things that we'll do with firms is say, hey, we've got to figure out who your tax service line leader is, your audit service line leader, your accounting services leader, or maybe a consulting leader. And we're going to have to rally up all the work and bring it all in and figure out how we're going to process this work in intelligent workflows with the right technology across office, how we'll staff it, we'll stop staffing my favorites. I use my favorites, and we'll start staffing with who's available and who makes sense and how can we leverage best and how can we give people the right work so they're being developed and all that. I mean, it's just, to me, specialization by service line has to be done for sure when you get to, I don't know, 3 million, maybe 4 million. And I'm running into big firms that haven't done it yet. So it's just super interesting.
Yeah. And I think it takes a moment to step back and think about what you're passionate about and why you do what you do. So this is what at this moment that we have is to really redesign the way our businesses are working, our firms are working, and look into the future and say, if I had to do it all over again, what would I want this to look like? And part of the problem that I find a lot of times when doing strategy planning is that people get wrapped up in the how instead of the why. So, as you're going through what are the possibilities and opportunities, try not to get stuck in, but this won't work because of this, or we've had troubles in the past, because it's like all of that discussion has to go away. Like once you decide on your path forward, then you can start talking about how would we deliver. But in a brainstorming process of really getting down to what you're passionate about, that's what helps you specialize, is when you can keep an open mind and stop putting up the barriers. Usually what happens is we put up our own barriers and get in our way of our own progress. And we have to look at strategy sessions as really being open and going internal to what really excites us. And part of that is what I always work on is defining your customer persona. So there are customers that are your favorite customers. And that doesn't just happen. You have to make sure that you are attracting more and more of those customers you like to work with. And to do that, you've got to define the customers you love to work with. And then that starts driving you into your specializations and how you go and deliver and what technology and so forth, because you're bringing those people in the fold as you go along.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So first, the why idea, 100% behind that. And we have to recognize that if I'm a change agent trying to drive this in my firm, I have to appeal to what's in it for the people that I'm talking to. The WIFM, and for our clients, by the way, not just for them, but for their clients. So I get you 100% on that. We have to be careful, though, if I'm inside the organization and I'm, part of the change process, part of this brainstorming you speak of, I have to recognize that usually the roadblocks that I'm throwing up that get in our way are my selfish interest. So it's not just that I'm trying to complicate things with the how. I'm also trying. I'm trying to, I'm afraid of what I'm going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
That's selfish interest. I mean, I'm unselfish and I don't want to lose it. I like what I have and I don't want to lose it. So as change agents, we have to appeal to, people's sense of, loyalty to the greater good. Mm-hmm. And to set aside selfish interest in those planning meetings, you can presence it and say, here's what I'm afraid of losing.
Right.
Or here's what I'm afraid is going to happen that won't be good for me. That's another way of saying it that might sound less vulnerable. But to recognize that I have to set aside my selfish interest for the greater good and really look at the big picture and recognize we can work out the how, as you said, and the how, then I can express my selfish interest and concerns and we can work through those problems, those takeaways or whatever I'm afraid of losing. So I just love all of that you said. And I think that when we're trying to appeal to people through this change process and get them to specialize or get them to reorganize is another way to think about it. Specialization sometimes feels like I'm going to end up having to go narrow and I'll lose things I know today or something. But this is a way of reprioritizing, reorganizing, so that we can just run smarter and more efficient and more profitably. Then I love your ideal, we call it ideal target, your ideal target client. Define it, put it in writing. Who are they? What kind of entity are they? Are they individual? Are they a corporate entity of some kind? What industry are they in if they are a business? Where are they located geographically? How big are they? If they're an individual, what's their net worth, or where do they kind of live in an income bracket? And then you got to ask yourself these psychographic factors, they call it in marketing, psycho being psychological. And, are they progressive? Are they change ready? Are they coachable? Are they functional? Do they communicate well? And writing down who you love serving so that you can go out and attract more of those. And I tell people all the time, you don't have to serve clients that don't give you joy. Right. You do not have to serve clients that your team and you all absolutely dislike serving. You might have to finish the engagement you're on. I mean, I'm not trying to get you to quit in the middle of something, but you don't have to keep re-engaging and you don't have to attract more of those. And I always feel sad for firms that think that they just have to take any business, even bad business, because they don't have the confidence and self-esteem that they can attract those ideal targets.
Yeah. So I call it the ick factor. So you see a client call you. Are you excited to answer it? Are you like, this guy got a voicemail, I'm not ready to talk to them right now?
Do you say ick like ICK? Are you saying the it factor like ick, wow? Or ick like, oh.
Ick.
Because it's both. The it factor is the ideal target and the ick factor is the one that's the client we don't like.
Yeah. So, I mean, it comes from your gut, right? And so think of those clients you don't like and why. And some of that could be that they're bad payers and you don't feel appreciated and, things like that. A lot of times, though, I find, and I just got in a discussion this week about it, it's things that can be thrown up as barriers, might be on payment and how much you charge. And a lot of that's operational, and we put that on the client. And instead of going, no, we need to fix our process. So we need to upfront bill clients and not be in collect. And so all of those discussions go out the door, right? Have agreements where you're looking at client relationships at a 90-day checkpoint to make sure you price things right and they know that's going to happen, know how to deal with scope creep. So like those are all in the how section, but we put them in the, when we're talking about why of, well, we don't want someone because of this. Well, actually you have to then decipher, is that our fault or their fault? Because are we really creating the problem? It's like a parent with children that doesn't discipline, right? Like a lot of times we can complain about that child, but it's like, did they get in trouble? Did they know they shouldn't have done that?
Yeah.
If you keep letting someone get away with it, you can't make it as an impediment of taking on a certain type of client, because they might be one of your best clients if you just take that out of the mix.
Well, and that's all about managing expectations, right?
Right.
So for clients that fall on the ick factor, I would say Amy's
my very official terminology.
I like it. I do. I like it for good and ick for bad, and then we can confuse ourselves sometimes.
Exactly.
When we're talking, which one? What list are they on?
Yeah.
But anyway, the client that falls on the I don't like serving them list. We do have to ask ourselves how come, and how could I be 100% responsible? You and I've talked about that about 1,000 times in our Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about, do you hear an echo?
Yeah.
I do too. All of a sudden, special.
Maybe not.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that idea of being 100% responsible, what could we change? What could we do differently? What is there for us to evaluate on our side? You talked about pricing. You talked about billing methods. Sometimes it's, we test in the prospect phase. We, when we're very first getting to know prospects, we test for coachability. We find something to suggest. We look, read their website, read their social media, do everything we can to learn about them ahead of the call. And then in the call, we listen to what they're telling us and we test them for coachability. And if they don't feel coachable in a sales call, they're not going to be very coachable once they become a client.
Right.
And so, that's, and we're in our number one factor on the IT list, the good list, is we can make a difference. And we don't think we can make a difference if somebody's not change ready or coachable. They're not willing to listen to you, even in your first meeting. They don't want to listen to you. You're in trouble. So anyway, there's things like that we could look at that we might change in our business processes that allowed more clients to come in and be IT factor clients because we managed them right. We managed their expectations and our own, and they could be better clients because of it. But there are clients, I was just talking to my partner Tamara about this. There are clients that they give you red flags all the way in the door, we've been in business almost 21 years, and I'm not a spring chicken or a young person that doesn't know anything. I'm not wet behind the ears. So I have a lot of experience having made mistakes for sure. So I'm still making them, I still get red flags on the way in the door with people. And I'm like, wow, and I'll even say, I feel like this is a red flag. Later, we're talking about, why'd we do that? We had red flags. So I get how we fall into the trap of desiring to help people, desiring to have a new engagement or whatever it is, and going down the path. But I think we should listen to our gut more and pay attention to those ideal qualifiers and really disqualify people on the way in the door versus try to find a reason to make them fit.
Well, and that's why it's so important to define that customer persona, right? At the end of the day.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you're not, the whole issue is that you're not going to know what is a disqualifier. Like you can have your gut, but you don't have enough of a checklist to go back and say, well, this is why I'm feeling this, or this is why it's off. They don't match this quality. And I think what's really important about what you said as well is that we don't have to take every client that calls. So it is important to make these definitions and know what fills you up from a work perspective, that we don't have to take every client that walks in the door. But when we define who those clients are and what type of work we want to do and what kind of relationships we want to have and what we want to build those people so we feel our worth is valued, then that gives us enough of a guiding light from prospects all the way through as if they fit.
For sure.
And so you can't skip that part. And a lot of people, especially when we open businesses, I know in many of the businesses I've opened, and even when I opened my first accounting business, I had an idea of what my business was supposed to be, what I thought it was going to be. And then the clients started calling, and they were not asking for what I was trying to market.
Yes.
And I had to then kind of go into that and be open to, well, what is it that they're asking for? And is this work that I want to do? And even now, I mean, we've talked about that in our businesses as well. It's easy to take on other work that comes to you because it's a way to make money in your business. But then, if you go down that path, it takes up space that's going to go against the work that you want to be doing.
Right.
And it's a very hard decision to make on a daily basis of work you have to turn down in order to do the work that you want to do, but also being flexible and agile enough to change as you need to when times change or what customers are asking for, to be open and say, is that something that I want to serve? And if not, who would I refer this person to, not just drop them?
Right. So, I mean, one of the things you're talking about there is something called being market responsive, right? So when I find out who my ideal targets are and I am offering them a set of services, and then they start needing things that I might not have had on my menu,
yes,
the market is shifting somehow, and that's driving those needs, or they're growing and it changes their needs, and you have to grow with them, or you're going to have to refer them out or something, because they're still going to have those needs. And I think a lot of firms, they get kind of stuck. We get, as leaders, we get stuck in the services we have and the stuff we've already built, and the things we've already trained our people to deliver, and we have all our business processes around, and we're not paying attention to what else is going on with those clients. What
Right.
else do they need? And we're not having our people pay attention, like listen. It's like a market listening that you've got to constantly be doing. We just recently launched training for seniors. And we did it because we just kept getting asked. And it was, we didn't really think that we had the bandwidth to create it per se. I mean, it wasn't like something that had been, on the list for 2020, but there was such a demand coming out of our client base for it. And we're in the pandemic, and we thought, well, let's dig in and do it. This is the time. When else will we do it? Right. We're not traveling, and we'll just make it happen. Brianna on our team led the charge, and she kept being adamant about it. She's manages marketing, and she was the one listening. She
Right.
was saying, hey, you guys, are you listening too? We need to do this. So, and it's funny because we thought, well, maybe we'll get 20 people in the first class. And I told Tamara, let's limit it to, 50, but I was like, we'll never see 50. Well, I think we have 8 seats left or something, and it's only been open 4 weeks. So, wow. And it starts and I'm not trying to market it. I'm just saying that that's an option. Like Brianna got it. She was listening, and we were hearing it too and telling her, and we were putting it in our leads and sales pipeline.
Like, do I want to spend the time doing this?
Yeah, but she was looking at the big picture, and she brought, we have innovation meetings, and that's another idea that I'll share. We do meet at least once a quarter, but usually every other month. We have a small innovation group. We're a tiny company, but there are a group of us that get together and say, what should we be innovating? Right. What should we be developing? And if you don't have that conversation, it's hard to be market responsive because you're all too stinking busy running the business and delivering service. You've talked about this a lot yourself. We have to take ourselves away from the business for a minute and have those kind of clearing, brainstorming, innovation conversations. And Brianna generated that over and over and over again in the meetings till we finally relented and said, yes, let's do it. And it's going to turn out to be one of the best ideas, I think, of 2020.
Well, and when you do something like that, the other important thing is that you talk about what you're going to stop doing.
Yes.
Because in order to have the time and the bandwidth to develop it in the right way and put the right effort, that means something else needs to fall off.
Yes.
That isn't producing what you want, or maybe it's not what you see the future is.
Or not
I just had that discussion yesterday on my team, and I was like, you know what? Like, I've moved so much into another area that I don't know if this type of thing serves us anymore, and it's a distraction. And so it's important that you do take a step back, as hard as that is, because it's a big shift.
Mhm.
But you really have to, take that, 30,000, 50,000 feet look at the business and really get real honest about what's working and what is from the past. Doesn't mean you might not bring it back one day or turn it into something else, but you only have limited resources. So you've got to take something out in order to move towards something.
So, and we've talked about this before, but it's very real for me right now. In December, I clean the closet out of my clients every year in December. I evaluate those that I might not be making a difference with, or those that the difference that was to be made has been made.
Yeah.
And now we're just kind of hanging on to each other, mostly through regular or ongoing coaching maybe. But, I'm finding that the coaching's more like, hey, what's going on with you? A little market discussion, but we're not really digging in on strategies right now. Or I think that someone else on my team who's involved with that client could serve them just as well to open up capacity. And I, every year, make a small list. It's never big. We don't have millions of clients or thousands of clients here at Convergence. So I just make a small list of those that I wonder about, that I wonder if I should keep serving them. And I don't like to do that. But I have to open up capacity or I can't do anything new next year. And so, and I want to do new things. You and I've talked about that too. Some people are innovators and some people are maintainers. I like variety and I like to innovate and I like to do new stuff, and I can't do it if I hold on to everything that I've been doing.
Yeah.
And that's hard because I love some of the stuff I've been doing, but there are other really great people on my team who could do it instead or are already doing it. And right. I just need to sort of give it up. And it's so hard for me. I absolutely hate doing it, but it always opens up a little space so I can say yes to some other things. And if I don't do it, I've got no room for yes. Yeah. So what are you going to clean out? I mean, that's what people should be asking themselves. It may not be clients. It may be, boards you serve on or networking associations that you're transitioning to someone else.
Maybe you're volunteering on too many things.
Exactly. Yeah. I see that a lot too. And I usually have to, I know, I have to do that too.
No. And then I have to go, wait.
I hate giving those up.
Am I making money on? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, also just all kinds of things that we may have to give up. And sometimes they're in our personal life too. There's all these activities in our personal life we need to trim down so we could do other cool things that we're really getting joy from. So I think that year end is a good time over these holidays to make that list. And then in January, figure out how to operationalize it so you can make yourself some room. And I know I'm going to, even though it's not my favorite exercise, it's a little bit like working out. It's necessary.
Right.
So, and you feel better afterwards. You dread it going in, you feel a lot better afterwards. So I'm going to be doing that.
All right. Well, we are over time. So, but hope everyone had a great holiday season, and we will be back next week. We're going to be back the next couple weeks, and then there'll be holidays. So thank you for joining us. And if you have any topics or questions for us, feel free to let us know on our social channels. Thanks.
Thanks,
have a great
everybody.
weekend.